Today, and over the years, the appetite for making Africa great again has never died. It has always been there. And there has been no shortage of efforts across the continent of Africa. In 1963, we ended up with the Organization of African Unity, which did a few good things we cannot deny. The African Liberation Movement, which was headquartered in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, was one of the bodies that was in the forefront of liberating the countries that had not been liberated. They made a contribution for the liberation of Zimbabwe, for the liberation of Namibia and of South Africa and of Angola and of Mozambique. They made their contribution. But when we regained our independence, there is a sense in which we have not realized our potential despite the best intention of the best of us. Is it the conspiracy? Yes, it is true that there is a neo-colonial project that is alive and well. Yes, there is a sense in which the colonizers left, but they never left. You see it in some of the things that they continue to do. Right now, here in Abuja, there is a meeting of Commonwealth countries to discuss tax. And I say, why meet under the aegis of the Commonwealth? Meet under the aegis of the African Union. And I'm quite certain that the former French colonies will also be meeting somewhere in Abidjan. And it's possible that the former British and Portuguese colonies will also be meeting somewhere in Luanda. The erstwhile colonizer still manipulates us. Our emotional true north is the capital of the former colonizer. If you ask the president of Cameroon where he would want to celebrate his birthday, he will possibly tell you Paris. And he does. If you ask somebody from Angola, they would possibly tell you Lisbon. If you ask somebody from Nigeria, holding all factors constant, where they would want to be, London. If you ask somebody from La Côte d'Ivoire, Paris, Democratic Republic of Congo, Bruxelles, we are mentally captured. We are mentally captured, and until the day we decolonize our minds, we will do all the things that we want to do, but we will never realize our potential. Those of you who are in the military, you know that the occasion where you now say that you've been properly trained is when you have had a stint at Sandhurst. That is a fact, because we still are suffering from inferiority complex. Many of you are very erudite and you have attended conferences outside of the country. When the American government sends you to the International Visitors Program to visit the United States of America, you think it is for free? No, it is indoctrination. When you see the American Cultural Center in Abuja, do you think it is for free? When you see the Japanese Cultural Center, you think it is for free? The British Cultural Center, the French Cultural Center, the Goethe Institute, the Confucius Institute, the Turkish Cultural Center. Why? Because the mind is the standard of the man and the woman. Control the mind, then you control the individual. And you can sit and you can predict what they are going to do. Africa is a victim of conspiracy to that extent. There are two things in Africa today. If you want to be rich without working hard at all, be a politician or found a church. That is, in all African countries, that is what I see. That is why people engage in cutthroat competition, and throats are actually cut in pursuit of political power. And that, in my view, undermines development. You know, in the continent of Africa, we now think that periodic elections is what democracy is. That is not democracy. We have perfected the art of manipulating democratic processes. Those who win the elections are not necessarily the ones who win the election, the ones who are announced to have won the elections in many African countries. And when that happens, there is always constant agitation so that we do not address agriculture. We do not address health. We do not address education. The net effect is that development is undermined. It is Julius Nyerere who in 1966 said that when we talk about development, we do not necessarily mean roads, although that constitutes development. We do not necessarily mean big buildings. We mean beyond that the development of the people themselves, their ability to feed themselves with dignity. But do we do that for our people? We don't. We don't. How much do we pay our health workers in many African countries? A pittance. How much do we pay our academics? A pittance. How much do we pay our researchers? A pittance. But how much do we pay our politicians? The whole world. And I'm saying this with pain, because until the day that Africa begins to think otherwise, we are going nowhere. Our so-called development will be undermined. And Africa has no shortage of declarations that we make. We make many declarations. In the health sector, as I've already said, we said here in Abuja, 15% of our budgets. Not a single country. Tanzania reached 10%, and Mauritius and the Seychelles and Botswana. Today, when we are sick, unless you are suicidal, you don't go to a hospital in Africa. You go outside. You go to India. You go to London. Even ministers for health in African countries will never go to those hospitals. Why? Why? Yet, we have the Abuja Declaration on Health. On the air skies, the skies, the only African airline that is running and makes profit is the Ethiopian airline. Yet we have the Yamoussoukro Declaration on free skies. Most airlines have died. Nigeria, dead. South Africa, dead. Ghana, dead. Gambia, dead. Others which claim to be airlines with a single aircraft which their president can take at any minute without any warning, dead or dying. How can a continent be in that space? Look at little Qatar. Little Qatar. Qatar is smaller than the state of Bauchi. Smaller. Look at the stadia that they have built in 8 years with one resource, natural gas. Compare that, permit me to speak my mind. Compare that with Nigeria. The 5th largest producer of oil on earth. And yet they are accused of fuel in the capital. How can we excuse that? How can we possibly excuse that? with gas from the Delta. We are flaring the gas. The Democratic Republic of Congo, with minerals worth $34.1 trillion under her belly. What is she famous for? War. Is that conspiracy from anybody? No. It is us. It is us. And until the day we are able to say that there is something wrong with the things we are doing, we are always going to blame other people. And then you can go on and look at the area even of vaccination. You know, when you look at vaccination, not a single African country produced vaccine. We were begging, oh, AstraZeneca, come to us. Oh, Moderna, come to us. Oh, come to... Why should we be given? Don't we have scientists? When I travel across the world, there are Nigerian scientists all over the world doing amazing things. But when they come here, you pay them $100 per month. No conspiracy. I'm suggesting to us that there is something that we must look for inwards. Nigeria, when I was a little younger, used to be famous Kaduna. Textile industry, leather industry. Then oil came. Everything was abandoned. Today, we are in a crisis. Africa sometimes judges ourselves very harshly and with a jaundiced sense of history. The post-colonial African state, the oldest post-colonial African state is Ghana. 66 years only. Nigeria, 63 years only. And we often forget these very important and immortal words of John Henry Clark when he said that all African countries, upon regaining independence, started to conduct their affairs on the basis of systems of governments that were borrowed from Europe, and that none of them will ever succeed on the basis of borrowed systems. And as if he were a Jewish prophet, he is being proven right on a daily basis. Because whenever we in the African countries think that we have identified the problem and that we have identified the antidote, when we apply the antidote, new wounds appear. That has been the state of Africa. And that continues to be our state. And therefore, when we judge Africa, we must ask ourselves, from whose lens are we judging Africa? When in 1965, the Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah wrote the book Neocolonialism, the last stage of imperialism, and the most dangerous, he was right, and he was overthrown for it, because the colonizer left but never left. And if you have any doubt, see what is happening in Niger, in Guinea, in Burkina Faso, in Mali. They are alive and well. And Africa remains the only continent in the world that is still referred to as Francophone, Anglophone, Lusophone, and now we are beginning to even call it Russophone and Sinophone and Indophone.